is Reverend Irma Forward, and you are listening to Wake Up to Your Magnificent Self. In other words, Wake Up Awareness. My spiritual companion this morning is the wonderful Jean Kennedy, practitioner of religious science.
Aww.
And we are here to awaken you to your spiritual magnificence. And your spiritual magnificence will outplay itself into your physical world. It becomes your reality. And so we're excited to be here this morning on this warm August morning here in Southern California. So it's just really great to be with you. And what we would like for you to understand is that this show is representative of a very wonderful spiritual leader who has moved on to another dimension of life, Reverend Sue Constantinides, and we honor her with this radio program this morning and each and every Sunday morning as well. And so we give thanks for her presence here on the planet. Also, we want to acknowledge our wonderful, knowledgeable, wise engineer, Joseph, this morning. Where are you, Joseph?
I'm right here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, you're there, and he keeps us balanced and keeps us moving ahead each morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Let's have a great show.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. So this morning, we're going to ask Jean to step in and allow us to evoke the presence that is within us. Sometimes we say invocation, but evocation, because the presence of God lives, moves, and has its being in us. And so we're inviting Jean to open us up and anchor us in prayer this morning with a wonderful evocation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Please join me in knowing the truth of perfection for each one of us as we move through our lesson today, which will be bountiful and meaningful as we explore the magnificence of our divine. I know today that our lesson will be absolutely terrific, and we will learn so much today about our spiritual selves. And for this I say thank you, God. And I release these words knowing that it's done, and so it is.
And so it perfectly is, and thank you for that. And our lesson today is on the abracadabra principle, and knowing that we all have gifts that we have to offer. And so we're inviting Josh Groban to open us up this morning with the mystery of your gift.
KCAA. A single note passes out of the ashes, a flickering ember begins. It's the courage to turn when the pages have burned and your story now seems at an end. Seasons stay and seasons go, sending your memories adrift. It's the beautiful longing, embrace the unknown, that's the mystery of your gift. And the echoes of your melody will always live in these walls, and the lessons that you gave to me, before you can fly, you must fall. It's the beautiful longing, embrace the unknown, that's the mystery of your gift. There's a voice in the shadow calling for more. There's a rhythm that beats from within, lending your voice to the warmth of your song. There's a strength in a choir of one. Pure is the voice that sees the place where the weight of your past may now lift. It's the beautiful longing, embrace the unknown, That's the mystery of your gift. And the echoes of your melody will always live in these walls. And the lessons that you gave to me, before you can fly, you must fall. Ring through if you sing out of the fire. The courage you need comes from
Thank you, Josh. Thank you very much. That's a very powerful song that we have to rise up from the ashes and know that our creative word will help us to do that, our abracadabra word, and we'll get more into that as we move into our lesson this morning. But from the Declaration of Principles, which Ernest Holmes wrote way back in the 1920s, we find these words. We believe that life itself is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. In other words, what he is saying is that the word itself becomes flesh. Your word is an empowering narrative. Therefore, your mind is a center of divine activity. It can express love. Your mind can also express anger. But remember that your word is creative. Not only are we in the universe is in us. I don't know of any deeper spiritual feeling than what that brings upon me. And this is a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson in a message that he delivered at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies back in 2006. And let me repeat that. Not only are we in the universe is in us. I don't know of any deeper spiritual feeling than what that brings upon me. You see, all life and all form is created by the self-knowingness of God. And this is the foundational teachings of Science of Mind and of many unity centers as well. It explains how God created the universe and how by our own divinity we create our experience of life. It explains how thoughts become things and is the inspiration behind the divine creative process as presented in many of our classes at many of the centers of religious science and unity. The Word is what created the world through our own self-knowingness.
You know, Reverend Irma,
okay.
It also says in biblical scripture that the word flesh, from John 1:1,
yes,
in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You could alternatively or also use a cosmology reference to the Big Bang Theory of creation and how all the physical properties and laws of the universe were developed in the first few nanoseconds of existence as the word of creation.
Right.
everything else followed from this word of creation.
And indeed it does follow from the words, the spoken word. So your spoken word is reflective of what? It is reflective of your thoughts that are taking place internally within your mindset. So on a subconscious level, what we're saying is that your mind is a highly advanced machine. Is that what it says, Jean? Is that what we believe? That the mind is a highly advanced machine?
Yes.
What kind of machine would that be?
I want to think it's a spiritual machine.
It's a spiritual machine?
That it contains the essence, or the essence of the God stuff.
Okay, the essence of the God stuff. And also, what it does is, what does it do? It stores information.
And it processes data.
Okay. And it allows you to communicate with your spoken language, and also maintains regulation of all your bodily functions. These are the advanced systems that are within your body itself, without your conscious mind needing to do the work. So what is this?
It's a computer.
There you go. The mind is a computer. And common thought is that the brain houses the mind. Now, we'll delve into that a little bit further, perhaps in a couple of lessons down the road here, a couple Sundays from now. But a thought-provoking topic for us today, one in which we spiritually take control and acknowledge the conditions of our lives as those of our own self-making. Oh, gosh. That means that we have to have a sense of personal responsibility for our lives. And, Jean, what is it that people sometimes say because their lives are somewhat dysfunctional? What is it that they sometimes say?
Well, basically, you know, they blame the condition that they're having from lack or from separation from God.
Okay, and it is that most often. And a lot of times what they say is that their parents are responsible for their conditions in their life. And what they say is, well, my parents were not wealthy. They were basically uneducated. That's sometimes the mantra for a lot of different people when they are coming face to face with their dysfunction, because they've created it themselves. And so rather than accept personal responsibility, they want to blame and shame someone else for their life as it stands at this point in time. And sometimes they even think that I didn't ask to come here, so what is this all about? But the fact is that you are here, and you are here now, and it is a matter of what, Jean?
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility. And so that we have to take control of our lives by being responsible for our lives. So, Jean, did you ever think about the habits that we form in life, and what creates the habits? And yeah, what is a habit anyway?
Well, a habit is an acquired behavioral pattern regularly followed until it becomes almost involuntary.
Okay.
The habit of looking both ways before crossing the street.
Okay. And that becomes a habit.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a habit, and you develop these habits sometimes as self-defense, you know, defending yourself against possibilities that may happen. As when you're crossing the street, you said you look both ways so that you don't see this big 2-ton machine coming at you
and running you over.
And running you over. So we want to be very, very careful. But we develop other habits as well, and these habits sometimes are life empowering, and sometimes they're not, and we don't always acknowledge that they're not supporting us in the way that they should. So we often think persistent thoughts that become very habitual. We have reviewed many books, and essentially what all the authors say is that our thoughts create our reality. Think about that. Our thoughts create our reality. Now, many great mystical teachers, including our own Ernest Holmes from Religious Science and the Fillmores from the Unity tradition, basically what they are saying here is change your thinking and change your life. In biblical scripture, the messenger Paul, in his letter to the church at Rome, admonished this community to be not conformed to the world, but what did he ask them to do, Jean?
But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And that's Romans 12:2.
Okay, so we can find that there. In other words, we want to transform our minds. So that means to let go of habits that no longer serve us. It means to let go of people, places, and things that no longer serve us. And we want to embrace that which is good, that which is acceptable to us, and that which is really the perfect will of God operating intuitively for our lives. And so we want to just let it go. And as it says, there's a cute little film out now called Frozen that a lot of the children like, and I kind of liked it myself. And there was this constant mantra in one of the songs of letting it go. And so we have to always let it go. So that we can embrace our greater, higher good for our lives. And so Holmes says that we are the sum total of all of our thoughts and all of our actions. Now that calls forth responsibility, and it becomes self-responsibility. There is a saying. What does this saying say, Jean? We had that written down here. What does it say?
If it's to be, it is up to me.
There you go. So if it's to be, it's up to you. And what you want to do is to actually change your experience in the world. And as we do this, let's look perhaps at the quantum physics, which tells us that the universe is made of waves and particles of energy. And these waves and particles of energy conform to our expectations. Your thoughts are vibrational energy. In other words, thoughts are things. Now, remember, we talked about this last week as well. Einstein said that matter is created out of energy. And the creative law simply follows the energy that you put out. Last week, we talked about being a broadcasting frequency. So what are we energetically broadcasting for the law to act upon? And we talked about how our thoughts and our feelings and emotions are vibrational energy. And when we allow ourselves to indulge in what I would call energy that is less than, energy that pulls us down, then we're not in a position at that point in time to really change our thinking or to do anything positive for ourselves. So we want to be careful and watch our thoughts, watch the processes that our thoughts take, because our thoughts will give us the right kind of vibrational energy if we simply sit back and allow the presence that is God to work in and through us in a very positive manner. Because we understand, too, that this law that we call the creative mind is a very impersonal thing, and it gives to us what we are thinking about, whether it is negative or positive. So we always want to err on the side of the positive, is what I would say. We want to err on the side of the positive, and we want to broadcast that which is positive so that the law has something wonderful to act upon in our lives. So now, Jean, I want to give you a story. And I'm going to be very upfront and very personal about this story this morning. So several years ago, in my mid-20s, I was concerned about being an old maid because, after all of my girlfriends had married and were having children. And my thought was that if I were to have a male companion, he would just simply have to show up at my front door. I wouldn't have to concern myself about where or when I would meet him, or even if He would just simply be there. And after anchoring this thought in consciousness, and I didn't know what consciousness was at the time because it was pre-religious science, I went on living life, going to school, partying sometimes, but not necessarily with the conscious intention of meeting a companion. And a few weeks later, the landlord in the building where I was renting my apartment sent a repairman to check on all the electrical and plumbing fixtures in the entire, building itself. Now, the rest became history. I learned how to do handyman work, not necessarily the work itself, but how to schedule the appointments and all of that. And I knew what they were talking about when they said they wanted a certain job done. So the idea was that I married the repairman. And guess what? He showed up at my door. Because that's what I had put energetically, that's what I had put out for the universe to act upon.
Because you said he would have to come to your door, and he did come to your door.
He did come to my door.
Versus there's a joke.
Okay.
This person wanted to win the lotto.
Okay.
Oh, Lord, let me win the lotto. God, please, let me win the lotto. Please. Big booming voice happens. He says, son, help me along here. You got to buy a ticket.
There you go. There you go. You have to put it out there. You have to have your ticket.
Yep.
You have to have something for the law to act upon. Otherwise, I have to say that the law, the creative mind is just kind of sitting there waiting and saying, come on, come on, come on. What is it you want me to do? What is it that I can do for you this day? And so all of this appears to be coincidence. However, let's know that it was simply energy and a limitless power ready to provide us with the deepest concerns of consciousness. You see, we were oblivious to the workings of the presence that we call God or Spirit. Now, there's an author out named Pam Grout, and she has written a book called E2. And it is called The Field of Infinite Potential. So we want to give up our habitual thinking. Habitual thinking, which subconsciously impacts the material world in a negative way, can be thoughts such as, I'm not good enough to have this, or I can't succeed because they, whoever they are all out to get me. And even sometimes we say to ourselves, I'm too old to do this. I can't be bothered at this particular time. Now, it's very interesting that we put that negative energy out there because, again, as we have stated earlier, the law is very impersonal and will provide for us the energy that we put out there. So we have to be very careful about how we state what it is that we want to achieve. These thoughts are things. And the universe, or this magical field of potential, responds to the waves sent out by this thought process. And they become your constant reality. And you do not succeed, you do not prosper, and it's all because you claim your chronological age in order not to accomplish things, and you do not succeed because of this. The universe, or the field of potential, is your servant and acts upon your deep thoughts and ideas about yourself. So, Jean, would you say that you are responsible for your thoughts?
Oh, every single one of them.
Every single one of them?
Yep.
And so what it is that we want to do then? We want to indulge in what kind of thoughts? Trained thoughts. We want to train our thoughts so that we become enlightened. You see that?
I do.
Yeah. So now, we talked about the book E2 for just a second ago, and we came across, while we were exploring this book, we came across the abracadabra principle. Now, Jean, I know that you can tell me what this magical sounding word perhaps may mean.
The abracadabra definition is a mystical word or expression used in incantations, on amulets, crystals, whatever, as a magical means of warding off misfortune, harm, or illness. The word is commonly used by magicians in magic tricks. In metaphysics, we think of the word as meaning, I create as I speak.
Okay.
With the magician, it is usually instant manifestation. He has set up a trick and performed the magic trick many times. Let us at this moment acknowledge time as a man-made construct to get us through life on somewhat of a schedule.
Okay.
We as ordinary people, we may wait a bit before a manifestation of a deep-seated desire.
Okay. So in essence, what the magician has done is he has set this trick up, of course, that's what you said. He set the trick up, and he's performed the trick many, many times. So when he says abracadabra, there's instant manifestation. In other words, the rabbit comes out of the hat, so to speak, and it comes out instantly. And we want to be able to, perhaps through the process of visualization, see ourselves accepting our manifestation right here and right now, because it is an idea in our minds and we have let it go, so to speak, and it becomes our abracadabra experience. So the word is spoken because of your deep-seated beliefs, because of your faith in yourself, because of your faith in the spoken word becoming manifest. And you say abracadabra, and it actually takes place. Now, think about that as you move on through the week. What is your abracadabra experience for each and every day? And it can be something very positive, or it can go to the shadow side, perhaps. But it is your experience because you have spoken your word. There is instant manifestation because you have spoken the word of abracadabra, and it actually takes place very, very quickly. Now, our consciousness and our manifestation of goods and services assume personal responsibility. Neville Goddard was also a mystic and influential New Thought teacher, and what he says is that man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. There are no other causes other than your state of consciousness. This is what he's saying. And this is what I truly believe as well. The question then becomes, how can my thought, as limited as it is, influence my personal universe? Now let's look at some basics which we experience in these contemporary times. I personally enjoy the TV show The Voice. The contestants sing and compete to be coached by vocal masters of many genres of music. Who would have thought that the sounds of this competition would pass through brick, wood, and steel from a transmitter and land up on this picture screen in my house? And they call that thing a TV or a television, okay? Someone had the state of consciousness that said, I will create something that will transmit sound and vision across the airways, and I will call it television. You see, focused thought is enhanced by one being responsible to his authentic self, and quite often it transforms a generation of people. And television is now a reality. Now, when cell phones first appeared, they were really very large and almost the size of a car battery, if you recall that. They have now been refined by the power of someone's thought, which also said that they should be smaller. Otherwise, we would be carrying around something similar to an automobile battery. Now, let's realize that we exist in a state of consciousness that will create your life in a way that actually reflects your inner patterns of thought. The field of potential is always ready. This field of potential is more than able. It is quite capable to respond in a positive manner to all of our requests. And all of these requests come from consciousness and responds to those vibrational patterns of belief. We are reminded that Jesus walked on water, but simply because 100% of his consciousness knew without a doubt that he could. He had overcome the worldview that only an idiot would attempt such a stunt, so to speak. And basically he said abracadabra in many of his recorded miracles. So no matter what we think, our mind is a very powerful instrument. We initially referred to the mind as a computer storing everything. In the beginning days of computer technology, we would repeat. What was that mantra that people would repeat, Jean?
Oh, garbage in, garbage out.
Yep, garbage in, garbage out. And so the computer responds exactly to what you say. And sometimes you think the computer's doing its own thing, and it's not really doing its own thing. It's doing whatever it is that you consciously or unconsciously commanded it to do. And so it is with our current thoughts. We manifest what we think about constantly. Because our thoughts may be weak and misguided doesn't make them less effective. Indeed, they will accomplish what is thought, even though it is weak and misguided. Let me repeat that. We manifest what we think about constantly. And even though our thoughts may be weak and misguided, doesn't make them any less effective. Indeed, they still accomplish what is thought about, even though it is weak and misguided. Jean, there was a philosopher back in the day. His name was Plotinus. And what did he say about this? What did he say about this?
He said something to the effect that our work is done better when we turn and face spirit.
Turn and face spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And where does this spirit exist? Let's emphasize, where does this spirit exist?
The spirit exists within us.
Within us. And that is so very true, because again, let us reiterate, for it is the presence of God that lives, moves, and has its perfect being in and through each one of us. So we want to constantly know and feel that vibrational energy that we call God, allowing us to speak our word and knowing that our word has an abracadabra effect, that we will speak our word and the manifestation will take place according to our level of belief, according to our level of faith in the accomplishment of this desire. Ralph Waldo Emerson says that a betterment in conditions always follows the divine influx. And Jesus says that if we seek first the kingdom, then all things are added. Now, sometimes we are confused about this idea of seeking first the kingdom. What does that mean? In other words, what it simply means is that we're going to embrace all the spiritual principles that we know are God-inspired, the spiritual principles that live, move, and are having their perfect being in and through each one of us. We're embracing the spiritual principles that say that we are living our authentic life, that we're living up to our full and perfect potential, that we are living our life on purpose and in accordance with the divine will for our life. And so we seek the kingdom by simply being still and to know that God is at all times. All these teachers, Jesus, Plotinus, Emerson, all of these teachers encourage to seek a higher form of thought if we wish to experience better things. And so, my friends, I invite you to think higher thoughts. Think thoughts as the presence of God thinks. those higher thoughts of harmony, peace, and unconditional love. Allow the mind of God to be your mind as you take personal responsibility and embrace the universal perfection and wholeness as your field of infinite possibility and potential. I invite each one of you to experience an abracadabra moment today. Allow it to be your truth for today. Allow it to be positive and life-affirming, and so it is. And so our inspirational music at this time is by Eddie Watkins Jr., and what he's saying is that I am the place where God lives.
Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God lives. You are the place. Moves and breathes and has we its are being. The place. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place.
And so, friends, this morning I constantly want to remind you that you are the place where God shows up. God does its magnificence, unconditional work in and through each one of us. So say to yourself, just take a deep breath and say to your place, say to yourself, I am the place where God shows up. Feel that vibrational energy that says, I am the place where God shows up. And indeed, you are the channel through which the magnificent divine work of living life takes place. It is the work of God in process, and you are constantly in process. You're constantly changing, being more of who you are created to be, extending your potential each and every day as you embrace that which is positive and embrace that which is full of love. And so each week, Jean and I pray. In other words, we do what we call affirmative prayer for each and every individual that is on our list this morning. And Jean, first of all, would you give us a description of what affirmative prayer is?
Of course. Affirmative prayer, in religious science terms, we call it we call it a spiritual mind treatment. But affirmative prayer is aligning our thoughts and our words to create a manifestation or a demonstration. An answered prayer is a demonstration. So with affirmative prayer, we have 5 steps for scientific mind treatment. And it is the now I go brain dead. Okay, we have the recognition.
Yes.
We recognize the source of our good, which is that of God. We have unification, where we unify ourselves with God and with our good. And then we have the realization part, which is step number 3. And that is when basically you put the meat in, where you declare for yourself your perfect good, whatever that may be at that moment in time, or whatever you are praying for in your affirmative prayer. And then we have the thanksgiving.
Jean, let me remind you of something. Back many years ago, there was an what I would call a New Thought Evangelist, Reverend Ike. And what he would say is, name it and claim it. That's what happens in that realization step.
Yep,
Yes.
name it and claim it. Because
Yes.
that's when you're naming what you want.
Right.
And you are claiming it as your own at that point in time. Then you go into Thanksgiving. That's the 4th step, where you give thanks for the manifestation that is going to appear because you already know that it is so. And then the 5th step, and I think this is probably one of the most important,
Absolutely.
is we release it. We release our word knowing that it is done. Jesus said, pray as though it is, and so it shall be. And that's the truth behind all prayer. And basically, affirmative prayer is aligning our thoughts with our words to create the action. And they call it scientific because it is the same pattern. It's the same 5 steps that you can do every time, and it works.
It's replicated each and every
Yes.
time.
A lot of people say, well, God doesn't answer all prayers.
It does.
He does. He answers everything. Sometimes the answer is no.
According to your belief.
Yes, and what it is God always comes up with something better.
That's it. And, you know, the old saying in New Thought circles is, if you want to give God a laugh, tell God your plan.
Exactly.
Yes. So we want to know that. So this morning we have a few prayer requests, and we're going to work and speak an affirmative word for each and every one of them. And Jean, if you would take care of that for us this morning.
Alrighty, this morning I'm speaking my word for Pam. I know that Pam is whole, perfect, and complete, and there is no appearance of cancer. That God will work in, through, and around her with God's healing light. And I know this to be the truth for Pam. And for Jared. Jared is a divine expression of God and is free from respiratory and any other kind of concerns that he may have. That he is perfect, whole, and complete. And we send out our thought and our words for everyone who is being affected by the wildfires in California.
And some in Hawaii right now as well.
And in Hawaii, and the people on the East Coast with the floods and the storms. We know that they will be healed, that healing is taking place right now for everyone concerned, because that is the divine action of God manifesting in our world right now.
And we'll speak our word for Elaine this morning as well.
And for Elaine.
Yes.
Elaine works and walks beautifully, that she is surrounded with love and comfort, and makes plans on her future through divine wisdom and guidance and with love.
Yes.
And for this, and for all the people that we spoke to, and that everything that we know this is the truth, and for this, we say thank you, God, and release our words, knowing that it is done, and so it is.
And so it perfectly is. We just simply give unconditional thanks, and we praise the God self within us, knowing that as each individual on a very conscious level, we enjoy thanksgiving, we enjoy praise of our efforts. And so we take this moment also to praise the Spirit, the living Spirit of the living God that is within us, knowing that as we do this, that we praise and lift ourselves up in this vibration of praise and love and thanksgiving. For it is good and so very, very good. So I invite you at this moment to just simply know that there are churches of religious science. There are unity churches all over the Inland Empire here, and we invite you to find one and locate it and attend services there. The services usually are from 10 or 11 and run approximately an hour, but there are always life-affirming, life-empowering messages that can be heard in these centers for spiritual living. So we're absolutely grateful for the opportunity to present ourselves and our message to you through the airways this morning. And so I invite you to turn within with me to prayer. We're moving into prayer, and knowing that I invite you to take a deep breath and just simply know with me that every day from dawn to evening tide, God is and always has been. This one life that is God's life is my life now. It is perfect, and this life dwells within the being, within the center of each one of us. One with the power, self-creating our observable world. We bask in the law that always says yes. In Hebrews, the 11th chapter, the 3rd verse, it said, "Things which are seen were not made of things which do appear." The Supreme Spirit in which I dwell is all about me. As I look around, the evidence of the divine hand is apparent in all that I see. Deep within me, I feel its presence and know its power as it responds to me now and always. That is abracadabra in action. I take time today to allow my soul to breathe in this awareness, to bathe in this awareness. My heart is light with the love of Spirit, and I am filled to overflowing with love and joy in every moment. My thoughts are lifted to a new sphere of acceptance, understanding, and true knowing as I embrace the great good that surrounds me and is in my life. I attract everything good into my experience, everything that is harmonious, loving relationships, joyful activities, rewarding accomplishments, and an ever-increasing flow of prosperity and abundance. It is easy for me to see an ever-increasing flow of abundance, for I behold God in every face, in every circumstance, and in every undertaking. So I declare now that we are all truly blessed in all things, that we are full of gratitude as we move through this day. For we know that what we have claimed weaves the exquisite tapestry of our lives. And once again, This day we live in wonder and awe of the blessings bestowed upon this great nation, and we are thankful for the grace bestowed upon us as emissaries of pure spirit, and that grace continues to abide in this land, our United States of America. And so it perfectly is. We give thanks for this. We give thanks for this day, and we invite you to enjoy your day. It is a splendid August day. We will see you next week. Peace, love, joy, and all of that good stuff. And so it is.
And so it is. Please visit our Facebook page, Wake Up Awareness, and leave your comments. You can also private message us if you would like a prayer request.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.